Anyway, all right. Guess who's got it together though? PFL. They got two bigger heavyweights, maybe even sizing up each other. They did it at the press conference, and then all week as they had their last playoff card out in DC. So their upcoming pay per view, it's called PFL Super Fights Battle of the Giants, and in that main event, former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou will make his PFL debut. His opponent, 2023 PFL champ Renan Ferreira. Do you like the way the PFL is promoting these guys? Mike, did they nail the marketing?
I don't know. I think it's a little too early to tell. I think I think they did what they needed to do, right? You finally got these two in a room. You failed to get Francis Ngannou in the cage when Ferreira knocked out Ryan Bader in that Bellator versus PFL thing. He was cage side and he kind of took off before they had the opportunity to do that. So to see these two absolutely like hulking, gigantic men stand side by side next to each other, you're like, okay, this is a legit heavyweight fight in terms of the size, the power of all these guys. So this is what PFL has been waiting for, right? Like people had their doubts Ngannou was ever going to actually fight there. It was just kind of a marketing ploy, all these things. They've made all these signings that have yet to actually come to fruition in terms of fights. So they got Francis to sign on for a fight here. They have a date, they have a location. This is a big deal for them. I don't think it's going to be breaking any records on pay-per-view or anything, but it'll probably be their most successful pay-per-view offering to date, more so than their championship finals events. So yeah, this is a huge deal for them. And Francis, man, could there be like a more compelling time, for better or worse, for him to be making this debut, coming off the brutal knockout to Anthony Joshua, the personal tragedy that he went through losing his 15-month-old son earlier this year. So like you got a lot of questions about where he's at mentally, physically too. I mean, his knees were all sort of busted up after the fight with Ciryl Gane. He needed those major surgeries, and we've yet to see him defend a takedown, grapple, any of that stuff. I don't know if this is necessarily the fight where he's going to have to display all that, but at least it's a question, right? There's a lot more lateral movement, kicking, all that stuff in MMA. So we're going to find out what's up with Francis Ngannou. And yeah, this is a big fight for PFL. So I think they're on the right track here. We'll see what these guys do over the next couple months. We'll get into, the press conference kind of misinterpretation and everything there with Ferreira's comments, but that had people talking at least. And it's something that brings more attention to this fight, even if it was maybe blown out of proportion or misinterpreted or whatever.
Yeah. And Matt, we'll pivot to you with that topic about Ferreira's comments. He obviously has had a year where he got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. And Ferreira obviously is saying, look, you got more problems. This is going to be the biggest problem of the year. He then came back and said, hey, look, I wasn't talking about the death of his son. I was just talking about the Joshua fight. I'm going to be a worse, I guess we'll say, nightmare, to him for 2024 than that. But what were your thoughts on that? What were your thoughts on the press conference? And then this whole marketing, man, they're calling him, it's a super fight, Battle of the Giants. I almost feel like it's becoming a bigger deal than what's going to happen less than a month afterwards in New York.
Yeah. So first on the comments, like when I heard the comments, I saw the reaction immediately, obviously on social media. Like everybody was like, oh, wow, that's such a terrible thing to say. But also, I also kind of felt like it was a little lost in translation thing there, because you've never really heard him talk like that before. He's always seemed like a pretty cool dude, not like a guy that's going to go, take a low road or take cheap shots or anything like that. So I was kind of like, wait and see. Let's wait for some clarification. And then he obviously came out and said that, that's not what I meant by any means. He was strictly talking about what happened inside the ring there for Francis. So that was good that he cleared that up. And I believe him. You got to take him at his word for that, because, again, he doesn't have a track record of being that guy. So I liked that from him. As far as the whole promotion of the fight as well, I think they're doing it the right way, calling it the Battle of the Giants. Getting these two men just standing in front of each other, again, like at this face-off at the press conference, and right here, as you see in the cage there, it's good because they're both huge men, and they have Jake Paul like he's fighting for his life, trying to keep them separated there. Is an interesting little touch. But seeing Renan Ferreira just tower over Francis Ngannou, if you are just someone tuning in for like the first or second time, you're like, wow, this dude is huge. And you're wondering, like, how is Francis going to overcome this? So it makes it a little intriguing. there's interesting elements to the fight as well when you start getting to the X's and O's of things, like how it can play out. But I do like how they are unveiling it and leading to this big showdown.
Two big dudes, man, just feeling each other, and patting each other down, but you could tell they were giants. What was with Jake Paul too, man? Did he lose his luggage or what? What was that outfit? Nolan King, man, is this fight here like almost a bigger deal than the one in New York in your eyes? I mean, we have the guy that left as a UFC champion. He wasn't beaten. He left as champ, signed with PFL against Renan Ferreira, who won the previous season. Then he beat the Bellator champ. Honestly, if he beats Ngannou, he's going to have a certain claim at the end of the year as well. Baddest man on the planet. I mean, this thing is really, really exciting when you think about it, with everything that's happening within a month.
Yeah, it's big. I don't know if I would say bigger than John Jones, just because of the name recognition, the UFC brand. I mean, but that's what PFL is up against, right? Any promotion outside the UFC, it's going to be an uphill battle. But there were two aspects of this that surprised me in a positive way when it came to this booking. And one is when Francis left the UFC. I mean, I think the discussions we were having on here and just behind the scenes and everything was like, who is there to fight in MMA that would be even remotely intriguing for us to watch, right? Like, and PFL found somebody, and they didn't go out and get a free agent or a former UFC fighter that had left or whatever. They built somebody that had been there for a while from the ground up, from his days in LFA till now. He's fought for them. So they made him into something that was intriguing to watch. He played a huge part in that. Like, he went out there and he won fights. He looked good. He got devastating knockouts. His size helps. And you think about Bellator, right? When Bellator was around, like, even when they were competing with the UFC, like, what heavyweights did they ever build that ended up getting themselves involved in an intriguing fight? Like, I think, like, there was Valentin Moldavsky and guys like that who were their champions at times. But after Minikov left, there really wasn't anybody that was a homegrown talent in Bellator at heavyweight. It's a very hard thing to do. So for PFL to be able to go out there and get a relevant fight is huge. And then also, to be quite honest, I'm surprised that this is happening like in October. That was another thing. When Francis went on into his boxing, I was like, man, we might be here for a while before we see him in MMA, right? And sure, he went out there, he fought Fury, he fought Joshua. It's not like he was gone from MMA for 3 months, but for them to be able to find a fight, to get it done, within a regular period of time between his Joshua fight and here, which we can talk about whether that's good or bad for his health or whatever. I do think it's a big feather in PFL's cap that they were able to get this on the books too. So sure, the challenges still exist. I don't think the pay-per-view numbers are going to be particularly great. We'll see. But I do think they have a fight that will get people talking, involving one of the biggest stars at heavyweight that the sport's ever seen. And it's an intriguing matchup. How many times does Francis Ngannou have to look straight ahead or up when he's in a face-off, right? So I really can't think of many complaints when you think of it for what it is that I could have about this booking.
UFC branding aside, I'm more excited about this fight. And all that aside, I think the baddest man on the planet right now is actually Tom Aspinall, and he doesn't even have a fight. But whatever, guys. Oh man, what a mess this thing is. But hey, October 19th, that fight goes down, and then I think it's November 16th, UFC 308 goes down, I believe. 309 goes down. So it'll all be sorted out. We'll know who the baddest man on the planet is in a few months.